Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Now, I have the great privilege of representing Filton in my constituency that for over a century has pioneered and led the world in aerospace. It is where the British Concorde was designed and built. The South West hosts one of the largest and most significant aerospace clusters in the UK, with the top 14 global aerospace companies having a significant presence in our region. 17,500 jobs are due to the work of this sector specifically, which generates £1 billion annually for the Greater South West. This includes a wider supply chain and research work in local universities such as the University of the West of England in my constituency. The UK aerospace sector represents over 110,000 jobs. The whole aviation sector is worth £52 billion a year, which equates to roughly 3.4% of our country's GDP. Now, in my constituency of Filton and Bradley Stoke, there are well over 20,000 jobs directly depending on the aerospace and defence sectors, with many more involved in the supply chain. And in 2019, the aerospace sector contributed in exports of £32 billion to the UK economy. Now, my constituency has always been at the forefront of research and development and innovation in the aerospace sector, so it is good to see some of the measures that have been put in place to protect and enhance this industry. It relies on highly skilled personnel in research and development, manufacturing and production, as well as the supply chain of small and medium enterprises. This represents a skills base and a body of knowledge that our country cannot afford to lose. Companies I have spoken with recognise the level of commitment and appreciate the level of commitment and help the government have shown. The furlough scheme, support from the Bank of England's corporate finance facility, funding for the Aerospace Technology Institute, which supports R&D, support from UK Export Finance, and the sum of this is approaching around £9 billion. But if the Prime Minister wants to make the UK a science superpower, which I wholeheartedly support, I would ask the Chancellor to consider increasing the proportion of government R&D funding from the present level of 50-50 match funding to equal that of our European competitors, who are ignoring, or some are ignoring, EU state aid rules and are supporting their industry's R&D to a ratio of 80-20. And I would echo the words of Matt Allen, the Regional Officer of Unite, with whom I have spoken with often over the last few weeks, and say that if the government invests in R&D here, industry is much more likely to end up producing the products which are designed here, which will obviously help the economy and help protect the industry. So I know that the industry is grateful for the furlough scheme, but as it winds down, we should now consider a strategic sector-by-sector version for specific industries like aerospace. I am reassured and encouraged that after many meetings I've had with my honourable friend, the member for Stratford-on-Avon, the Minister for Business and Industry, the latest one yesterday evening, that he assures me that nothing is off the table for consideration when it comes to support for this vitally important sector. Now, nearly 70 aircraft flown by UK-registered airlines are more than 15 years old. These could be replaced by new aircraft which have better environmental standards, they use 25% less energy, and all new aircraft in service will have been certified to fly with up to 50% of sustainable fuel on board, and they will be much quieter. So the Prime Minister announced the ambition that this country should be the first to build an all-electric commercial airliner. Now, this will encourage the development of jet zero technology and net zero carbon emission aircraft by 2050. The government should support the scrapping of these 70 aircraft, allowing airlines to design and build newer aircraft to project jobs and keep the skills here. I'd like to add my support to calls for a dedicated long-term supply chain investment fund to support SMEs in the aerospace supply chain, many of which are world leaders in precision engineering, and some have only one customer. This investment will give these industries the confidence to invest in the sort of world-beating technology that will power the industry well into the future. Now, in January 2018, it was reported that nearly 1/4 of currently employed engineers will have retired by 2026. Now, this is very troubling indeed. But I would remind the government that one way to ensure that the aerospace sector has the new talent for the future lies in apprenticeships which the industry offers and which are highly prized. Madam Deputy Speaker, we must also bear in mind the vital strategic value to this country of a sovereign defence manufacturing capability, which gives our country the freedom to design and develop equipment that our armed forces will need in an increasingly competitive and contested world. Our ability as a nation to be a reliable partner and ally depends on us being able to respond on day one to any threats to our national security or which could threaten our allies and friends around the world. So we must continue to invest in the Tempest programme, which is the next generation of combat aircraft, and provide increased funding for the defence budget. Now, in conclusion, Madam Deputy Speaker, Filton has been at the forefront of the UK aviation industry for well over a century and continues to underpin both our civil and military aerospace industry. And as we look to the future, we must be able to maintain our edge in an increasingly competitive and contested world. The government must reset the economy, and the aerospace industry will respond with the vigour which typifies the spirit that motivated the early aeronautical pioneers. Thank you.
Ghani.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.